Thank you. Thank you so much to From Day One for having me here. I'm Abby Schneiderman. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Everplans. And today's topic is, in case you get hit by a bus, how to organize your life now for when you're not around later. We can deal with this. We're going to talk a bit about my company, Everplans, and how it came to be, and why it's so important to think about for ourselves, for our employees, this topic of how to get organized for the unexpected. And so in order to do that, I thought I would take you back to the beginning of how this all came to be. And is the mic really not working if I stand out? Can you hear me? Okay. So Everplans is a company I started over 10 years ago. The original idea for this whole thing came about when I was planning my wedding. And I was using all of these online resources that are out there, like the knot.com and Martha Stewart's websites, and I was on them every single day. I was on their apps and their guides and their calendars and checklists, and I say this all the time. I don't know why my brain went from marriage to death, but I started to think about life's over, what's next, and what are the other resources that are out there that are going to guide me through the rest of my life in the same way that I was so handheld through wedding planning. And as an entrepreneur, I just started looking into it and found that there were plenty of resources for planning weddings, plenty of resources for having kids, plenty of resources for buying a home, even financial planning, even retirement planning. But after retirement planning, that was it. There were no other life stages covered. And I started to think about, well, why is the life stage that's the scariest and the most complicated, the most stressful, has nothing associated with it, no modern resources. And so the original idea for Everplans was to create the first modern consumer brand to help people think about life and legacy planning, what we call it. And we started by, I mentioned this idea to my now longtime colleague and another veteran of the New York City tech startup community, Adam Seifer, and we started looking into it. He said, I'm sure there's somebody doing this because end of life is the only life stage that everybody has to go through. But sure enough, after about a year of researching, we found nothing. And so we decided to start by writing content. And we wrote articles on everything from how do you write a will to what do you wear to a funeral to how do you name a healthcare proxy, and really found that not only did people start coming to the website, but we were coming up very highly in Google search for every article that we were writing. And Everplans really was the result. This is actually a picture of our team from in December during our end of year holiday celebration. And so we kept going with this by writing articles. But then a big part of my personal story, and now really the company's story, is that a year after we started putting all this great content online, my family experienced a tragedy, which was that my 51-year-old brother was on his way to lunch, actually in the Hamptons, with his teenage daughter and his wife in the car, when he was struck and killed by an impaired driver driving down the wrong side of the road. And it was an absolute disaster for my family. We had no idea what to do. We had, this is obviously from a very long time ago, but it's my favorite picture of us together. And we were in this position that so many families experience. We were shocked. We were heartbroken. We were in the fog of having to figure things out. And you have to make all of these expensive, stressful, complicated decisions in a really short amount of time. And so Adam and I were already heading down this direction, but what it made us realize, we had to go so much further than just providing content. We actually needed to help people get a plan in place. And so Everplans, our planning platform, was the result. Today, we have a robust technology platform that allows people to get together all of the important, critical information that family members need in one place, in real time. It's a HIPAA-compliant, SOC 2 compliant vault platform. We have 30 million people who have engaged with our resources since we launched the company. We have over 170,000 people who have created Everplans vaults. And just during COVID, we wrote the book, In Case You Get Hit by a Bus, How to Organize Your Life Now for When You're Not Around Later. It was kind of amazing, but the company that did What to Expect When You're Expecting offered us a book deal. And we, during COVID, went out on a whole book tour about this topic. And it's been really incredible. The reception to this has been amazing. And so the way that Everplans works is, first and foremost, we help you organize all of the really practical information that you need at your fingertips throughout your lives. It doesn't have to be all end-of-life planning and scary stuff, but it could be like your pet dietary needs and the Vax card and the health ID forms and your Wi-Fi password and all of that stuff that people are kind of searching around for all the time. We get you to securely store all of that information plus more, plus the critical documents like wills, life insurance, healthcare documents, power of attorney, etc., in the secure vault. And then you make that information accessible to people that you trust. And you can name as many, we call them deputies. You can name as many deputies as you'd like. And then you can pick and choose who gets access to what, and you can even decide when they get access. And we have a feature that allows you to say, only people get access to this important information after I pass away. We have thousands of articles and resources and guides that we've now put together in the past 10 years of building this company. I think it's over 2,000 or 3,000 articles at this point, checklists, guides. I host a podcast with our editorial director talking about all of these things. And then the amazing thing is that the system helps to remind you over time to check back in, look at what you've done. Has anything in your life changed? We're going to talk about all of this in just a second. And then also identifies where you might have gaps in your plan. And so if you come to the system and you tell us that you're a parent and you don't have a will, one of the first things that the system is going to recommend is that you get that done. And so today we are now offering an even more comprehensive solution. We've added grief coaching, grief support groups, grief educational materials, as well as legal documents through a partnership we have with Quicken Willmaker, so that people can really start to more comprehensively approach, and employers can more comprehensively approach these issues with employees, because we know that these are real issues facing everybody. And employers can be a huge source of support for this whole topic. And so I know that the last group that was up here was talking about their 4 pillars. I'm going to talk about our 4 pillars, which are the 4 pillars that we call of life and legacy planning. And really just to bring some awareness to this topic. But the first component to life and legacy planning, in our mind, are important documents that you're going to need in order to have a complete and organized plan in place for your family. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about insurance and the types of insurance that you need to think about, and also how you should think about organizing it. Next is about money, assets, and more, how to think about the different important accounts that you have in your life, and how to make sure that somebody else in your life knows about those things. And then lastly is what we call legacy, but your life and how you want to be remembered. And it doesn't have to be the scary or the sad part of this conversation, hopefully not. So first we're going to talk about the legal stuff. Number one is just thinking about, like, when everybody thinks about, in case you get hit by a bus, the first thing everybody typically thinks about is, okay, do I have a will or do you not have a will? But it's your will. It's who gets access to your stuff, and have you named guardians if you have minors. The second is power of attorney, who gets to make financial and legal decisions on your behalf if you can't. And then lastly is advanced directives, who can make healthcare decisions on your behalf if you can't. And really what you'll find is that the hard part in doing all of this stuff isn't in doing the legal documents, it's actually just in making the decisions. And Everplans, our platform, and all of the educational resources and the way that the platform works helps people to think about the things that they might not even be thinking about, or make the decisions that they may be too afraid to make. Next is insurance. And this isn't comprehensive, but if you think about all the different types of insurance that are out there, life insurance, health insurance, auto insurance, pet insurance, liability insurance, property insurance, and a lot of the different types of insurances that people are getting, oftentimes are being offered by their employer. But what we know is that it oftentimes doesn't cover everything. And so one of the things that we want to make sure to educate people on is, do they have the right insurance? If they have done, if they've done the work to create policies, their families should know about it. we hear about these stories all the time of people who have put life insurance in place and the spouse had no idea it even existed. And so one of the things that we and our platform are really, really big on is making sure you first identified what insurance you already have done. Make sure your family knows where it is. Make sure they at least know how to access it in the event that they need to access it. Life insurance saved my family. Checking accounts, saving accounts, credit cards, 401ks. There are so many different types of accounts that people have created outside of insurance. And what's really important, what we say is take 5 minutes, like even if you do nothing else after today's presentation, just for your own, so you can sleep at night. Take 5 minutes. Think about what are the top 5 accounts that you have in your life. Jot down what they are. Make sure that somebody knows how to access them, and then make sure that that even you know what they are, so that in the event of an emergency, your family knows what you have. And so these are the different types of things. I'll tell a quick story, but I was with my dad. I talk about my dad a lot. He's 89. He's like totally with it. He's incredible. And he's actually one of the biggest super users of our site, which I'm so grateful to. But when I was first starting Everplans, I said, Dad, this is what I'm thinking about doing. And he was like, I don't need that. Everything is with my estate attorney. And my mom said, but Milton, who's our estate attorney? He was like, oh, that's right. So, and even a few months ago, I was with him at one of his banks and realizing that, he said, oh, this is where I keep my safe deposit box. And I'm like, I had no idea you had a safe deposit box. He was like, oh, you're right. I need to tell you about the safe deposit box. So it's like these little things, and our platform helps the employee think about all of these different types of things. And then we nudge you to make sure that you're getting all of this information in place and shared and accessible with people. Next is, we talk about this all the time, but we're trying to get people into the habit, it's my goal to get people into the daily habit of thinking about being organized. If you think about your household, the average household has, I think, has more than 15 utilities or service providers associated with it. And that doesn't even account for the things that like only you know about your household. In our house, I'll talk about my dad one more time. During COVID, we were living with them for 10 months because I was in New York City and we had to leave New York we left for 10 months. And, the disposal stopped working in their house. And I said, Dad, how do I fix the disposal? And he went into the broom closet and he got out a broom and started shoving the broom down the disposal. And that's how it started working again. And I was like, Dad, how would I ever have known that that's the way to get the disposal to work? But we kind of joke about that, but it's these little things that oftentimes get overlooked that are in one person's head in the household. And when things happen, when somebody passes away, when there's an emergency, you don't know how to just run your own house. I was at a woman who had recently lost her husband, and what she was not able to do was turn on the porch lights. And this was like her big issue because her husband had everything set up on the Nest. And she had no idea how to work the Nest. And this was like her main focus at the time. So think about what are those little things only you know about your household that could become really big problems for somebody in a huge mess later. And next we talk about understanding your digital estate. The average person today has 240 online accounts. And just to give you a sense of how much that number has grown, it was 130 during COVID in 2020. And 65% of people, according to a Pew Research study that we did, said that they keep track of passwords in their head. So, I don't know about you, but I don't know what I had for dinner last night. And so the idea of keeping track of 240 usernames and passwords is just impossible. And if you think about it, when you need to get access to important accounts, and those might be financial accounts, it's really a disaster if nobody in your life knows how to access your digital life. And finally, we're going to talk quickly about leaving a legacy. This is the final pillar. As I said, this doesn't have to be morbid or scary, but this just is the kind of thing we're talking to employees about and everybody about, which is think about how you want to be remembered. This could be, in our family, it's cherished family recipes that you want to make sure get passed down from generation to generation. I have a cookie recipe in the book that you might see around here called In Case You Get Hit by a Bus. We have We have sections for people to think about funeral planning. We have sections for people to think about something called an ethical will, which is talking about the values that you have and things about your life that you want to make sure get passed down. These are things that that people want to document. These are things people should document, and we give everybody the resources to be able to do that. And then lastly, the most important thing really we talk about is updating the plan, because things happen. People get married, people get divorced, they have children, they inherit money and have a huge cash windfall. I don't know. There are lots of things that happen in your life, but when those things happen, it's a really good time to reflect and make sure that the decisions that you may have made 10 years ago or 5 years ago or even a year ago haven't changed. And you might want to name a different guardian for your kids because maybe you live in a different state now. And so one of the things that we're now adding, like I mentioned before, is the ability for employers to, in addition to offer this robust Vault platform, also offer grief coaching, grief support for employees who may be going through a loss. And what we know is that grief can cost a company millions. 80% of bereaved employees spend 1 hour a day dealing with grief and estate duties. 47% indicated that their performance was negatively impacted by loss. 57% of bereaved employees suffer from mental or physical symptoms, and more than half of grieving employees plan to leave jobs where they feel unsupported. Grief support is an area that we can offer to our employees. It's an area when people are suffering a loss, your employer is who you're turning to oftentimes to feel that support. And if we can add in these elements, we can make a huge difference into the lives of our employees. And we also know that there's a huge cost of feeling disorganized. I know how good I feel when I am organized, when I clean out my Tupperware drawer once a year, right? You feel this like huge weight off. And we know that when people are feeling disorganized, when they're feeling stressed, they're not working as well. And so 65% of full-time employees in the US said that they felt anxious when critical information and documents were all over the place. 84% of employees in the US are less productive when they feel disorganized, and 86% are less stressed when they feel organized. And so we know that if we can take a moment and start to think about these different types of resources to add into the benefit offerings we may be already offering in place, these are some of the overlooked elements that can make a huge difference in the lives of our employees. And so thank you so much. I know this was probably not the topic you thought you were going to be listening to today, but this is the topic I talk about all day long, every day. And thank you from day one. I'm hoping you will join us on this mission of making life and legacy planning and an organization an area of focus for your company. And I hope you have a great rest of your day and conference. Thank you.